Hey guys, what's going on? It's your man Boris. Welcome to another episode of the TBScouts show. I'm here with none other than Coach V with Uncommon Basketball. Want to take a minute today. He's got a couple of upcoming camps that's coming up, and the one that I'm going to be a part of at the end of this month is going to be actually here in San Antonio. He's got another one that's going to be going on in Abilene,
Texas.
on the 19th, and the one that's here in San Antonio is going to be on August 26th. Coach V, you always have great camps. People that don't know, you've had a long career in coaching. You got a lot of connections. You were just showing me before we kicked this off, head coaches, assistant coaches, all that you've met over your 20-plus years of being in the game. So before we dive deep and jump into it, just take a minute and introduce yourself to the people, just for those that don't know.
Coach V, my email address is uncommonbasketball@gmail.com. If you need any specifics on my services, my website's uncommonbasketball.com. That's where you can register for camps. And what most people don't know is I actually help kids with their recruitment. It's a little bit different kind of program and service. And I've got a separate site. It's a UC Exposure recruit site that, I really help coaches find leads and vice versa. It's a simple, dumbed down version, but that's pretty much my three entities and programs that I offer here for not only San Antonio, but kids from Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and around the state of Texas.
Yeah, I see that you do move around. And going back to your kind of like your system, or you mentioned that your like kind of like your recruit site is basically you have like your own basically database full of players that you've met over the years. And I see tons of players that come through your system, but you do kind of have like a neat way of, I guess, kind of displaying the different prospects online so that it makes it easy for your coaching contacts that you have.
And some people ain't gonna like the sports, but I'm here with you, man. So we just chop it up and cut it up. I mean, it's at the end of the day, let's just get it down. Let's boil it down to one thing. You have to become a college level player. So there's a lot of wasted money. So my platform, like you said, is true. It's real. But I'm 90% before I really try to help them get exposure from my relationships, kind of my background and how I evaluate prospects and find fits for them. I'm trying to elevate their performance. A lot of mine is prep. So if I give a kid, we were talking today with two players, if I give a kid 4 months of direct access to my college coaching contacts, like I do with my camps. College coaches work my camps, and they know what can scratch you on a visit. They know how to take you up. If I look at a Twitter, how I pull you, even if you have a jump shot, that's what I do for 3 months. I clean you up. I get you inside the mind of a college coach. I take my ego out of it, just like I do at my camps. I use 4 college coaches to kind of reinforce what level Boris can play at in that smaller group. With my recruiting packages, services don't care if you can play or not. I'm going to spend as much time to prep you and how you can get your name moved up and off before I promote you.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing to see kids buy into that, but it's kind of hard not to buy in when you're talking directly to a college coach. I'll get you access to that.
So you do some of the things that is not always the fun side of recruiting. Because I do the fun stuff. I get to record kids, make highlight videos, do all the fun stuff. But you actually talk about some of the stuff that's not fun, but it's very important and very necessary, which is like how to present yourself in front of a coach, what to expect, what to and not to say.
So, I just dig into it deeper. Even though I coached 21 years of college, you got to stay in touch with college coaches. I showed you that list. I probably had 10 calls set with college coaches today, but I'm also picking their brain. If I'm not learning still, then how am I going to help a player? Recruiting has got some base foundation, but it's ever changing.
And I want to hold that thought because before we get too deep, I want you to kind of explicitly talk about your upcoming camps just for any kids that might want to attend those. And, I recommend that all players at least try one of Coach V's camps because if nothing else, he'll show you what it's like to be coached hard. And some of these kids, they're told their whole life that they're like the greatest gift to the game. And until they go to camps like yours where they're put up against bigger players and having to fight for a rebound or scuffle or get on the ground, it's gonna separate the boys from the men. You know, and sometimes
and
players don't
again,
get to see that.
the bottom line ain't really just separating boys from men. It's trying to turn interest to offers. Man,
Yeah, and I know that's what you do.
Yeah, and my new saying is you can trick parents all you want with these services and recruit, and it feels good. Like I hear from a recruit, Bobby, we're gonna get him a lot of looks. I feel good, but you know, at the same time, you ain't tricking college coaches.
Yeah.
So for me to continue to grow my credibility and not just use my relationships, the 300 to 400 new coaches that follow my leads are based on the last 3 years, kids being in the right fit, kind of passing that test and being prepared to make the transition. So,
and real quick, we'll talk specifically about your camps, but I wanted to just also take a minute because you mentioned when you're going back and forth and talking to your coaching friends that you've met over the years, you mentioned that you're also trying to pick their brain because things change. And one thing that I want us to talk a little bit about is just how the recruiting landscape has changed because, you know, ever since 2020, it's gotten harder for kids to get recruited. It's harder for kids to get noticed. It's harder for kids to stand out from all the noise that's on social media. And like you said, sometimes kids and parents are like told different things and sold different things that really at the end of the day don't matter. So before we talk about how the recruiting landscape has changed, let's talk about your 2 camps you have coming up here in the month of August. Today's August 14th, and you have one on the 19th and one on the 26th.
yeah, I've been working all day on invites today. The 19th, I started my coaching career in Abilene, so they have a good facility there. And it's a great event for me to go back to where I started my roots were my coaching career at the collegiate level and still having contacts. Like I got, coaches from ACU on staff, Angelo State, Hard and Simmons. And again, I look at these kids that go to tryouts in the spring. Yeah, I'm going to be, and there's 89, 90 guys at a blend tryout. And those are my guys. And they're looking for a redshirt big man. And there's 89 guys and they're paying $70. You know what I'm talking about. They'll start to fly out. You come to my camp, there's 5 coaches and there's 48 players. Now it ain't gonna hurt you if you don't know, hey, I gotta be tougher on defense. You're learning, you got time, but you're getting 5 times the looks. In that kind of atmosphere, I'm teeing the ball up for coaches to get a better look. Every kid gets a much better opportunity to gain exposure if you're, you know what I mean? Because we do a lot of facets of things. And then again, I just try to track progress and help kids after camps understand and prepare. Here's what you do well. Here's what you don't do well. One of the best testimonies was Cameron Roper. He didn't say, hey, he got me an offer or they got to sign the kid. I mean, let's just call it as you see it. So I just matchmake and get him in the right hands. What Cameron said was he gave me all the insight that would keep me from getting recruited. Smart, Cameron. Grow your game, play to your strengths. When you walk into events, know what you do, know what you don't. I get the right eyes on you. His education's paid for. And so is 220-something kids in the last 2 years. So I love being on shows now because I'll say go to UCExposurerecruits.com. Click on my roster of 2023. Now, it tells Division II or NAI. The most thing I'm proud about, because those are the levels, those are relationships, they got signed about the level that I projected them and the level that they played at. That's the whole object, to get a real opportunity. So you can go either way with these other things. So yeah, my camp in Abilene is great because there's so many coaches out there that still know me. And I can get Mid-Odessa, I can get Otherdale, I can get San Angelo, I can get Abilene, I can get some Fort Worth kids. It's a nice balance to end summer camps. But the biggest thing I'm excited for is being back in SA, my hometown. I was working really hard to find a facility. It was tough. Sachs came through. It's good. It's a perfect one for my camp because it's isolated and you're really going to get looks. But I get to end in San Antonio on the 26th, which is great. That's where I wanted to end, in my hometown.
Yeah, and like you said, your camps do take place on a certain day, but there's coaching and advice that goes on after the day of the event. So even though, you're having a couple of events here in August, that's not where your help stops. Basically, you can prep them, get them ready for the upcoming school year, and once they get in your system and kind of get in your database of things and get to meet some of your other coaching connects, it can really help them with their recruitment. One thing that I also like that you said was that you've matched kids up to their level, which I think is something that a lot of like parents and players need to recognize, because everybody's always saying like talking D1, but they may not know that there's like so many different levels. There's D1, D2, D3.
They don't know. They don't know a lot about a lot. Like I said, I couldn't do your job. I can't be an accountant. I can't do this. I can't do that. But one thing I did, you see this room, 21 years at every level. I was with 4 or 5 people for 21 years with 1.5 scholarships. And I had 9 months to scratch your name or keep your name. I flipped it. I'm in it to grow the game. The higher you grow your own game, as I'm doing the back end stuff with my service when I pick up a kid, the higher level I can push you. Credibility is credibility, but at least you have a balance. You save money and you're not stuck in some long contract. That's what people don't know. You're asking about it. I'm not selling it. I use my events as a byproduct to identify talent.
It's almost like a introductory, or like when kids come to your camp. Number one, they're definitely gonna get their money's worth, because they're gonna get some good instruction. They're gonna make some good connections. So if nothing else from that day, they're definitely gonna get their money's worth from like a training perspective and like a preparation. But also, what I think is maybe more valuable is the connections that you make. Once you go to one of your camps, that's just the icebreaker. And for those that want to work with you more, once they kind of see some of the value that you can provide, or learn a little bit more about your coaching history and how you can connect the dots, that's up to them. But again, just kind of promoting the camp a little bit, and how this whole basketball thing is a journey, because it's not like you just go to one event and then you get a scholarship, or you go to
not a
one
one-day event. I mean, but again, 5 years ago, if I was telling you that, even when we were talking, you didn't really, and that's not a knock on you, but it's the showcases and everything. I mean, I knew what I wanted to accomplish, but you got to get results. I wasn't going to sell ice cream. There's dream sellers on every corner. I get the parents that come to me the spring of their senior year. We got robbed by this. We paid $2,000 for this. But again, to me, well, I can't call in the 1 week. I can't fix everything. You look good. You can dunk. There's a lot you could have fixed. So again, in the summer and the fall, what I really am doing, and now I'm ready to say it more, what I'm really doing is using the college coaches on staff for 2 reasons. A, I don't care what anybody thinks in the gym. I don't have an ego. I got 4 guys. I ain't got 100 kids playing, games. We got 48 kids. We're taking a much better look. They turn in 9 forms, 7 names on. If 7 names are listed on all 4 college coaches, there's a foundation there. I'll call to help that kid, because they've been identified by a current coordinator in a real setting, which is a fair shot. And then I'll call them to see if they need help, save them money, and then we get to work on what you can't do. And now I've got some time on my side. In the spring, I help college coaches. In the fall, I'm trying to prepare you to play your highest level, what you can and can't do. And at break, think about it. Last year, Chico Strash was a perfect example.
Yep, from Alamo Heights.
Yeah. So I projected his levels, and they to get real interest, they were a little bit lower levels, D3 and AI. They were kind of in that lower level range. But if you're 22-3 at break and you're leading the state of Texas in charges, when I tell them your only thing you can do, you're not a rim protector, is be a great help defender. Give Chico Strash credit. Now their team was 22-3. That's an easy sell. He knew he could be a much better help defender, and he was leading the state in charges. Now his level of recruitment went up to D2. Things like that is what I try to say. If you want to push profiles early, push them. You'll bury half the kids that may have a shot, because I was on the other end getting Johnny. He ain't a completed, finished product.
Yeah, I think it's, and kind of going back to the whole basketball journey. Basketball, and this kind of goes into how the recruiting landscape has changed. Basketball and recruiting is, I'll say it's simple, but it's not easy. And there's a lot of things that go into play, and one thing that I'm thinking of is like when kids go to like maybe a camp like yours early, like because you mentioned that there's kids that are wait till
Spring.
their senior year or after the senior year's already done with, and then they want to ask for help for recruiting, and it's like it's almost too late. If they would have came to you like 2 years or 3 years early, imagine if freshmen that go to your camp. I know that you're working with some of the higher prospect type of players, but if a freshman or a sophomore,
Oh, the better guys are the younger guys.
they come to your camp, they get exposed to what they need to be doing early. That way, they're not waiting till their senior year, and when there's like no hope left or the clock's almost done.
Well,
And now they're asking
unless you're
questions, they need to
Division
ask
One.
them. Well, I mean, but for majority of players, especially here in San
Majority of
Antonio,
players,
they
yeah.
need to get on the ball early when they're freshman and sophomore years, just so that they can get the education to know what they need to do. Because you and me have both seen kids that are like in their senior year that come towards the end, and then they want help with recruiting, and it's not that I wouldn't say it's too late, but it makes it like 10 times more difficult than if they would have started a couple of years earlier. So just kind of putting that out there.
Again, I think there's
soon.
so many things. I mean, I've just dumbed it down. So one of the things I do, again, if I have 4 college coaches on a summer camp, and you want exposure, great. But really what you want is you want to leave and you want to have some kind of insight on what you can do to gain exposure, increase your own recruitment. I mean, again, they recruit the kid. They don't recruit. You just got to be if you got resources, if you got credibility, you got to be very careful of who you're sharing leads to, or you're not going to be able to ever help a kid again.
And what you mean by that is if you promote somebody or try to sell a player that is so great and so good, and then when the actual coach actually sees them and they're a dud, your credibility.
Well, remember, I drove down here from Texas State, and I had those kind of conversations with certain entities. I'm not dogging anybody. I'm not going to ever burn a bridge. When I was a coordinator, I'm going to say, hey, thank you, man. I'm driving home saying, calling my boss, but I'm never calling that guy again. I ain't calling him again.
Well, and you're
right.
if
if I come from West Texas A&M and you tell me about 3 dudes, I'm coming through San Antonio and Austin, it's my 2-day trip. Who's your best point guards? And you ain't never seen a West Texas A&M game versus Angelo State, and you tell me, oh, that guy, he's a no-brainer. He's a steal. I'm going to not burn the bridge, but I'm not calling him again.
Mm-hmm. And that's just how it works.
That's how it works for anything. So I flipped all that, and I was telling you what I do at my camps, which you should embrace in the summer. I got 4 college coaches coming to San Antonio. They'll work with me, and this will be an opener for the camp now. I say this even more now. Hey, we're going to get this started. The first 3, I tell them don't accept anything you would accept at ACU in March. Anything. Why would they? Your son's trying to play college. If he can't get over a screen, coach him just like you would at ACU. There's a portal problem. If you can't pass the test, the ones that have done good that were young, about their 4th camp, they're talking better, they're tougher. Easy. I want to call them. I'm going to help you, son. Don't hurt anybody. The ones that fall short and go pay $1,000 for every unsigned, that's fine. That's up to you. That's a hard sell, even if you're ducking the heck out of everybody. Like, man, that kid is great. Well, they're researching what you're learning on the 26. And think about it again. It's a college coach.
Yeah, you always have college coaches.
No, but you're trying to gain exposure at that basket. I'm telling the head in it, don't accept anything you would accept at Texas Western. Coach, I coached against you. It'd be a disservice to these kids. That's a fact. They want to play college. So when they get there, why am I going to let them accept in my toughness drill? So just progress to the camp. You ain't gonna it's gonna be different, but if you make progress and you finish on top, that's step 1. If you're close and you come back, then I know you're serious. You didn't go pout. You didn't blame the world, because that's the easy guy to take $2,400 from the recruiting services. And
like you said, as far as building that toughness goes, and again, I know I keep going back to the basketball journey, only because even this year, I saw several players from San Antonio that went off to college to play basketball, and not even at D1 level. I'm not talking about the highest level. And now they came back already, and it was either because the coaching was too hard, or the schoolwork was too hard, or it felt too much of a job being a student athlete. But
That's why I've
players
taken
and
it
parents
slow.
all need to know, like, this basketball thing is not easy. And when you actually do go off to college, it is kind of like a job. You have to do your schoolwork. You have to train like an athlete. You have to go to the games. You got to be on time. You got to show up. So it's not as easy as just like it is when you're in high school playing AAU tournaments on the weekends, having fun. No, when you go off to college, it's like real life. So it's good that they get this exposure, not only to how tough a workout can be, but then also some of the insight that you're giving them, because like I said,
and that's what my packages are. I mean, people don't know that, and I'm right because I have a whole separate site now. I mean, and it's proven. 80% of my clients last year got full rides. The best thing that's happened for me the last couple of years that I'm passionate about. You got to do what you do. You got to, if you're passionate about film, if you're passionate about select, you got to stay in your lane. Just because of my background, 80% on my roster that I worked with last year got the highest potential offer, and my hopes and prayer besides what I do with kind of sharing leads and how I kind of help them with their recruitment and their college list and all that. Now, what I'm really doing is coaching the back end and trying to prepare them mentally, the ones that take that constructive insight straight from college coaches. While you're a junior, you're growing your mind, you're learning before you get to that overwhelmed first semester. What's been best for me that's been what I was hoping for is a lot of guys that have gone on through my platform, which is going to help even more players now. They're doing well. They were under-recruited. Maybe they didn't look the part or have all the highlight or the money, but they're starting. They're a second-year sophomore. They're all conference. What's that going to help me do? Again, that's what I mean by credibility with my contacts. I'm trying to find the right fit. I'm trying to get the kid as prepared as I can till about January, and then I target fits.
And I'll make another comment on how good your evaluations are, and also you spend a lot of time behind the scenes, like you said, after the event. This kind of goes back to what you're saying about staying in your lane and stuff. I've written some player evaluations before, but that's not my strong point. But it's easy to write a little one-paragraph player evaluation. I've seen your page-long player evaluations going back and forth with coaches, going back and forth with the players. When there's not events going on or whatever, it's evening. I know that you're out there working with the parents and the players behind the scenes.
Well, it was tough. I mean, I stayed the course because if you list Bobby as D2 or NAI, I'm really, and again, I'm using two things. Let me give credit again. I use my relationships different. In the spring, heck yeah, I'm using them to get every kid as many looks as I can. You kind of are what you are. You better know what's important. I mean, you kind of have an understanding of what they're looking at, what they're looking for. And but in the fall, like you said, it ain't just my write-ups. I got one-pagers at my camp on the 26th and 4 college coaches. I use all those notes like a little mat at night to do my write-ups. So, but
a lot of research.
But 4 years ago, you think Johnny's D2? Well, I'm going with him. Well, somebody's making him feel better. You're saying D1. It's and they're sticking you on a 2,000, 2,500. I'm not talking about guys that highlight and film. That's a deliverable. It was harder for me to write the write-up as a long time that knowing the college coaches, they can read that write-up. They'll actually follow that lead, and you're getting style of play, fit, and level of play. Now, if you're younger, you've hit it on the head. I've had younger prospects, mostly from Houston and Dallas, that got Division I recruitment and signed D1 that had D3 plus interest, but they had 2 years. They had the best of both worlds. They weren't worried about where they were starting at. And I wasn't worried who was going home and training. I was giving them what they had to do to increase their own recruitment. And I was tracking progress and reevaluating, and they would come back. So again,
it built a better relationship.
And as your level of play increases, then I know again, okay, that's your first real D2 offer. That's another thing. I had so many parents in the spring say, well, we got an offer. I can make calls for my relationships. I use them differently. They don't know. I'm not trying to hurt. I'm just like, hey, what do you think of so-and-so? They never heard of him. He's probably a JV team, $5,000 institutional grant kid that these programs can offer now.
And I want to just make a quick little public service announcement, because in this world of basketball, especially when we're trying to like evaluate players and help players and talk to parents, it's really hard and difficult for a parent to hear the truth sometimes. And I know you as an evaluator, when we go back, sometimes parents will ask you like for your advice, and if you tell them that maybe they're not D1 yet, or maybe that they're D2 or D3, and parents don't like to hear that. Some are really good. Some will take that and know that they got to work harder. But I'm just making a quick little announcement that if someone ever says that your child is not as good as maybe you think that they are, don't completely discredit that. Maybe it's true.
You can trick. There's no way I'm losing credit. You can trick parents or there wouldn't be multi-billion-dollar companies. I don't have to.
I know you don't got to name drop them.
The obvious ones are NCSAs and all that. Multi-billion-dollar companies. So anytime somebody calls me that I help after a camp, and now it's a conference calling me, they're like, "We're going to try to get our contract tonight. We'll pay 50%." But they've seen the 30-minute call after a camp of what I do as far as helping you with your recruitment and the affordability. Because remember, in the spring, the more I can help kids prepare, in the spring I help coaches. They need help.
Yeah, I know.
They need real resources. There's problems with the portal. So, again, my lane is low, major, and below. I have no problem saying that. 80%, 80% of colleges around the country are D2, NAI, D3 or JUCO. And there's a much broader population of a young man and player, San Antonio, Austin, anywhere, that could find a good fit at that level and get out of high school and play college basketball. If you're above low major, in other words, a mid-major player or a D1 player, you don't need anybody's help. You don't need nobody. If you're below any of that, you're getting hit every day. You're getting stuck in 2,500, and you're not even on varsity yet.
Yeah.
So I have a different platform. And so one of the things you're asking, though, one of the things you didn't mention that I do is once we get a kind of a plan in place after these camps, or if I'm helping a kid, the thing that I do is I just really coach them. I'm really a coach, or consult them on what games will really help him gain interest. What did I just do? I'm not your random sir. I just broke you down, told you what games. Now play basketball. So the kids I helped last year, if they have 4 good high school games, in their 5th game, they have a college level game, I'm helping them. That's the game I'm sharing. I'm giving them a gap to continue, if that makes sense. But they have to give me that game. They have to elevate that performance. They have to give me something I could send out.
Basketball is a performance
And that's
sport.
a little bit different, unique, of putting an ownership on the player, but giving him some really direct feedback and insight on what's going to draw interest at your dream. And so I found my niche, found my platform. It's been a work. That's been the last 2 years. But now I'm more open about outside of, because most people think I just run camps, about that, because I do that probably more than camps. Camps are
you offer, for those that don't know, it's not just a camp. It's an all-around
year-round platform.
Service.
Year-round platform.
Camps
it's
is
just
one
different.
piece of it, but there's the coaching and everything. Now, I know we got to wrap up here because you said you got a coach. You got a call with a coach here, probably in about 15 minutes or so.
A kid from Westlake. I mean, tonight's his consultation call on what games I will share, what to highlight. I mean, my call is different.
So that's real life of you helping one of your clients.
Yeah, and he's a hell of a player. He's a starting point guard all region at Westlake, and I mean, he's a good player. And again, right now, what you're talking about with camp still. No matter if you're 21, 24, 25, 26, 24 to 26s are eligible to attend these camps. Summer camps are pretty open. If you're just hungry to get an opportunity, hungry to learn from college coaches, hungry to kind of see what a college-ready camp is and gain some exposure, because it'll be fair. I mean, you can win your way to the top. You could be unknown at Brackenridge High School in my camp and just go in there and say, I got a real chance, and beat everybody out.
And you'll get noticed.
Yeah, you'll get some notice and you'll get some recognition, but those are the guys, like I said, from a camp standpoint, the 24s to 26s, for these upcoming camps. Summer camps are pretty open to varsity players. I mean, I'll be extending some special invites that are just trying to not only gain some exposure, but like you said, gain some knowledge before the high school season. And you get to work with 4 college coaches outside of myself, hands-on. Man, pick their brains, learn, be smart, learn from them, understand what do I do well, coach, what I need to work on after the camp. I mean, I encourage the players, man, when you get done, talk to these guys.
Yeah, you got to keep learning. So let's wrap this up because we got about 10 minutes before you got to take care of your client, and we know how you take care of all your clients with the best service. You don't want to be late. But what I want to do is real quick, I'm gonna just share your socials with people so that they can know how to contact you if they want to sign up for any of your camps you have coming up this month. You can go to uncommonbasketball.com, and then also on social media, Coach V on Twitter. He's at UC Exposure. And then on Instagram, it's uncommon_basketball. So, Coach V, I know you go really hard on Twitter.
Those are good socials, but I want you to, what I am ready now to kind of be more proactive about, that I've worked really hard. I wasn't going to do it until all the moving pieces were in place. The UC Exposure recruit site.
UC Exposure
Yeah,
recruits.
you go to that. That's the kids I work. That's how I match makes. That's how I share leads. Instead of rankings, I make it really easy for college coaches around the country, my contacts, to find players, film, information. Well, I mean, close the gap. I just constantly, position leads, share leads, match make. Not profile push. Hey, who's the best 4s when I'm coming through town? They can go to that site. Coaches can get 4, what you can call profiles, or I can text the player cards while they're on the road saying, you need to go watch this kid at, Austin Westlake, and there's a really good guard at Harlan. He came to one of my camps. He fits your style. They got his information. They got his film. That's it. It's a lot more hands-on.
Connecting the dots.
Yep.
So to wrap up this podcast episode, I would just like to give you the last few minutes. Thanks, by the way, for coming out. Give you the last, 3 to 5 minutes, and we can close with this. Can you just talk about how the recruiting landscape has changed? And a couple of buzzwords that we always hear is like with the transfer portal that's coming up. Ever since players are getting that extra year and everything from 2020. So now you got like a lot of players had extra years. Transfer portal. You got kids reclassifying different years. You got kids transferring schools.
I'm confused. I'm confused. You just talking like that. I mean, I'm not that smart anymore. So I mean, you're confusing me. So all I know from my platform, which I did not know 6 or 7 years. I didn't know how I was going to get to this place. I wanted to grow the game again, even before the portal. And I wanted college coaches to find leads at the right levels that were more prepared. You just said there's a lot of kids home right now. I was on the other end. I saw kids get on bus. That was my real heart for no reason. They worked their whole life. They're going to get on a bus because they're late for a meeting. So, I didn't know how to put all that in. This is kind of a mention of all of that. So a lot of people say they understand. For me, the only major change in recruitment for me, it's helped me because about March, April, May, and June, there's so much movement and coaches have limitations they didn't have. So they need resources at a much higher level and the right players, you know what I mean? You don't want to fool them. It's a longer process for kids. The ones that stuck with it, like Yashi McKenzie, and didn't give up, I know he didn't shoot the ball well. I put my name on him. Somebody had to like him, and somebody had to need a leader who can pass and find a guy and give him a year to grow. There's a lot of things behind verbiage when I'm talking to coach.
Oh, yeah.
That's coach-to-coach talk that will get a kid an offer. So it's a longer process. I encourage kids to start early, like I said, with UC Exposure. Be patient with pushing your stuff out there until you kind of understand what to push and who to push it with. And B, man, these coaches at a lot of levels, they don't really even know what they have to offer. They're just kind of trying to stay in contact, with kids. When they really know, man, it unfolds in March more than I've ever seen before. So even the kids I helped a lot in a year, that's why I tell them, I'm just trying to keep you on radars and get films out there that's going to keep you on their board. They don't even know, think about it, what they can offer. As it gets closer to March, I start hearing this. Coach, we thought we have one, but right after spring break, we got 4. I'm going to be calling you. I need a 2, I need a 4. Either they're getting rid of the kids at that meeting, I mean, that's the way it works. If there's money involved, or they already know the 2 kids are leaving. But they ain't going to say that. They got to finish the season out and get to their
see
end.
how many roster spots they have open.
Now they know money, so I got a plan even with that. When I know they know exactly what money they have, I'm pushing. Boom, boom, boom. Now I'm pushing. I've kept you on boards, got your looks, worked the deal. But now I know what. Now I'm gonna look at that film and I know I can offer a Mommy Diaby or whatever it is locally. That's what I mean by be careful. It's a longer process. They're going to forget about you unless you're Division I, if you're trying to push some random kid in, you know what I mean, in December.
Yeah, that's what
So I just have a different plan, and it's trying to prepare guys. It's trying to get the very best games out there, keep them on radars, cross all the T's, and then start to work with college coaches in February on needs, level of play, what's your style, what are you looking for. That's what I do. I matchmake. I'm not sending everybody. If you're a high-low player, I'm starting to put your list together. It's more personal, more hands-on, but it's also led to a lot more offers, and it's helped coaches when that floodgate opens fill spots. And so, and find the right players and find good players. And again, prayerfully, I can't make it, but hopefully, like you said, they can transition and stay in school. That's what I really want. The more kids that can stay in school, the more UC exposure is going to grow because I'm assessing what I had to assess when I was in their shoes.
Yep.
But I'm just trying to help them.
Sending good players. So, all right, Coach. Well, you got about 5 minutes before you got to jump on the horn with your client. But again, thank you for coming out.
We'll man, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. Man, we'll talk about other ways to even enhance this SA camp because I want to make it the biggest, the best. I do. I mean, it's the last camp of the summer. The school's about to start. I've got time to get back with you and just kind of run through ideas of what's the best to help kids. Is it live stream, highlights, anything we can do to enhance anybody in that gym from all angles. Your angle, maybe hire somebody that's another person that helps kids. That's another thing I do that others don't. They're so worried about taking credit. When I go to other cities, I'll hire guys that are supposed to be competitors of mine. They may know they do write-ups too. What if that helps 5 kids in there?
Yeah.
I'll pay them money. I mean, to come do a write-up for me. I said, just give me 12 kids, do your write-up and put it on your media as if I know they're credible resources. So things like that. I mean, if we could talk about that maybe later this week or early next week, how do we really make that San Antonio camp have a little bit of everything for the 40 to 48 guys that want to come before high school starts? I want to just try to up that sucker and not waste anybody's time and have a great event to end summer in my hometown. Looking forward, hopefully, to working with better players in SA.
Yes, sir. All right, Coach V, well, thanks for coming out. Thank y'all for tuning in, watching this episode of the podcast. And like you said, we'll do it again here real soon.
Appreciate it, Boris. You're the man.